And a very good golf morning to you. Welcome to the show. The Back Nine Boys Golf Show is brought to you by Mizuno Golf. Nothing feels like Mizuno. By CPOMS. Enjoy the benefits of being a member at cpoms.com. By RSM, proud sponsor of the RSM Classic, giving back to our community. By Club Car, the ultimate utility and personal vehicle. And by Bridgestone Golf. Get fitted for the new Tour B ball. On the show today, we're going to talk with RBC Heritage Tournament Director Steve Wilmot about the incredible field, including several past winners and 5 out of the top 10 in the field. Then we'll talk with former LPGA Commissioner Charlie Meacham about his new book, Arnie and Jack, just released yesterday, Stories of My Long Friendship with Two Remarkable Men. And if you have trouble, like many of us do, hitting wedges or figuring out which wedges to have in your bag, you don't want to miss our segment with the wedge guy, Terry Kohler of Edison Wedges. But first up this morning, Tournament Director Steve Wilmot of the RBC Heritage Classic in Hilton Head. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Good morning, Rich. Happy Saturday, and thanks again for having me on. I look forward to it every year.
It is always a pleasure. I just can't believe it's another year.
Well, it's certainly different from last year and the year before, but things are full steam ahead and full capacity, and the buzz, the excitement, the energy that's out there from our volunteers and spectators and partners, and even the players. It's good stuff all the way around, and win-win-win for everybody.
How's it feel to have the fans back? I mean, I know you sold out on tickets, which was incredible, but how's it feel to have them back?
Oh, really, and like I said, even for the volunteers, it's really special. And it's almost one of those things. I've been doing it a few years. We almost forgot what it felt like in 2019 when we were full capacity.
Right.
And but we've learned a lot the last couple of years. And 20 we played obviously back with no spectators, and then limited last year. And we learned how to do from any situation, especially difficult ones. You learn more, and the takeaways from the last couple of years has helped us to we are in a sold out capacity, which we haven't been ever from the standpoint of the entire week. But we've also limited the number of tickets than we've had in the past, just for the sake of the overall experience.
Right.
We want to enhance the experience, and we want those true spectators that want to be out here and watch golf and enjoy and be able to see and view and have fun. So we're excited. We're going to have a big day today, and hopefully we're got our fingers crossed that Mother Nature will wait till the end of the day, if at all.
Well, as always, not far down the road from Augusta is the Heritage Classic, and you've just got another great field as you guys opened up on Thursday.
Yeah, it's one of those things. There's a lot of us tournaments out there that don't necessarily like being leading up to a major or following a major, and we've embraced the fact that we're behind or the week after the premier event in golf, if not all of sports, the Masters. And the vibe, the feel from the players, from the CBS who telecast, it's more of a let's go down and have a little vacation. We get to play golf and have a little tournament as well, and that's what we get. Listen to the broadcast, see the broadcast, and the players. I mean, they're riding bikes and going to the playground and eating out in restaurants and doing the same kind of things that happened down in Sea Island. And we were very similar in what we present and what we put forth, and it's good stuff. That 3 hours from Augusta has been a good thing.
Yeah, and you've had several past champions in the field, 5 out of the top 10. It just adds to the credibility of your tournament.
Yeah, I think what happened too is we've tried to analyze it. There's a couple things you have no control over, and that's certainly Mother Nature and even the players. And we understand that. We all wish that we had everybody every week, but they got to pick and choose. And there's family commitments, health commitments. There's time of year and golf courses. But when they came here in June of 20. A lot of the guys hadn't been here before, and obviously the temperatures, conditions are a little different. But they're like,
right.
"Geez, I need to come back and unwind a little bit." We've got a little momentum from that, and to have Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantley and Cameron Smith and Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson and Jordan Spieth. I mean, these are all things that it has worked certainly in our favor, and we're excited about it.
Well, what are the keys? Because you and I have talked about this, and I've been down there for media day and everything. What are the keys to playing Harbor Town to score?
Well, it's a shot. It's a shot, or I shouldn't say again, but over the years I've said this. It's a shot maker's golf course. It's only not even 7,200 yards, and so it is truly. If you look at our list of past champions, it's kind of who's who in golf, and it's not necessarily your bombers out there. And we do have certainly all these guys hit it a mile, but they have to kind of back off a little bit and play a little differently, strategically, and it's not just grip it and rip it. It's strategic golf and left side, right side, left side, however it might need to play. And Pete Dye did an incredible job with regards to designing this golf course, and the guys love it. The conditions are incredible, and the commitment from the resort to the golf course to the tournament is the Riverstone Group and the Goodwins has been phenomenal. So
Yeah.
we're in it together, and we want to put our best foot forward for the players, and obviously for the world to see on TV.
So the players come there, a lot of them bring their families. They come back year after year, and some of those that came the first time are now coming back. What are some of the activities outside of the tournament are there for the pros that you have lined up?
Well, it's one of those things, to be honest, we don't necessarily do a lot. We've worked with the PGA Tour Wives Association, and there's just natural things that happen here. Our daycare program, we do dolphin cruises, and we go crabbing, and we take them to the beach. Some of the natural things that happen, but there's certainly great shopping in this area. There's from the leisure trails to the beach to the biking, and a lot of natural things that are here that we don't necessarily create something for them. It's not that we don't want to and wouldn't want to, but shopping's great. The restaurants here are incredible, and so it's a vacation for them at a resort area that certainly we all benefit from. And we have a daycare that I truly think is second to none as well, and it brings the families. And this time of year, we being Easter, we probably have more children than we normally would, and we've got some big plans tomorrow with the Easter Bunny, and we'll kind of go from there.
That should be exciting. Sorry, bad joke. Anyway, how and when, Steve, did the opening ceremony include the cannons? I mean, maybe somebody that's not been there before, which I can't believe that, but when did that all start?
Well, from the very first tournament in 1969, this was Mr. Charles Frazier, and who was the original developer with his brother Joe, and the tradition of the heritage plaid jackets, and went to England to look at of some traditions of golf here and in the States, and it's something unique. It's something special. Other tournaments certainly have some opening ceremonies and have some wonderful traditions, but the firing of the cannon is certainly unique, and
it is
really. No pun intended, but we certainly get a bang out of it for many people. But Stewart was great. He, the third time he's done it, and he threw the club up in the air and caught it, and the crowd goes crazy. And it's as you can tell, I'm energized with it. It's unique, it's special, and certainly sets the tone for the week.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me one of your favorite moments, and I'm sure there's been more than one, that you can have and remember of the RBC heritage.
Oh, geez, this is my 36th year. So, and yes, I'm getting up there. So I'm not remembering things as well as I used to, but certainly, a gentleman that's become a great friend of mine, is a great friend of you all down there, is Davis Love.
Yeah.
And his first win was my first tournament in 1987. His birthday happens to be April 13th, which is also my dad's birthday. And we have some things connected together. And, few years back, when I think it was his last win, let alone might have been his fourth win, he took this little boy with him, and after he won, and took him to the locker room and took him to the media center, and he sat next to him during the interview and the media, and everybody was so excited and talking to me about the fact that how great was that for Davis to
Yeah.
share it with his son. Well, the ironic thing, it was my son. He grabbed him and said, "Hey, why don't you come in with me?" And had the trophy, and he was probably 6, 8 years at that time. So
Wow.
and that wasn't necessary,
Yeah.
but that's a personal thing. There's many great stories that I could share, and many relationships and partnerships. And running into Nick Fowler today, talking to Jay Haas yesterday for great lengths, and Billy Andre sending me a note and wishing me all the best. So I've been around a few
Yep.
pounds. I mean, excuse me, a few years. uh, but it's as you can tell, I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. I continue to learn. I'll learn from today, and I'll learn from this tournament, and we'll continue to strive to get better, to be better, to do better. So,
Steve, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Just thank you for taking the time during the tournament to talk with us on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show. Thanks.
oh, anytime, and thanks for thinking of us. And you all have a very special event, and a wonderful leader in Todd Thompson down there as well. And I look forward to that every year as well.
All right, Steve. Thank you. Have a good time.
You bet.
All right.
Thank you.
Steve Wilmot, the tournament director of the RBC Heritage. Best of luck to him for the weekend. Next, coming up, our interview with former LPGA commish Charlie Meacham about his book, Arnie and Jack. But are you looking for new clubs? I think everybody at times are looking for new clubs. Well, you might want to try the new Mizuno 922, 923, 925s to improve your game. These new Mizuno irons help you reach beyond. Add the new Mizuno driver to that, the fairway metals, the hybrids, and you're on the way to game improvement. Try the new Mizuno putters as well, and then check out everything on MizunoGolf.com. Mizuno Golf, reach beyond.
Hi, this is Davis Love III, and you're listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. Our next guest is Charlie Meacham, former commissioner of the LPGA and now the author of Arnie and Jack. Charlie has been very busy at 92 years old. The book is just coming out, and we had a chance to talk with him about his book and his long friendship with Arnie and Jack. Unbelievable relationship with two of golf's greats. Tell us how you met each one of these guys. Let's do Arnie first.
Arnie, I met for my first meeting with him was during my LPGA days in the '90s, early '90s, because he played in several events that we had that involved male pros as well as female. Probably the most rememberable was the mixed team, which played actually played at Innisbrook, where the Valspar is playing right now. And so I got to know him casually from time to time. But when the LPGA played their last event of my tenure, it was at PGA West. And I live only a few minutes from PGA West, and it was a team event. And I went down to just say hello to Jack and wish him well. Went over to the first tee, and Arnie, of course, was there with Jack. They were playing as partners. And I said hello to both of them, and Arnie said, hey, I've been meaning to call you. Let's have a drink after my round. And so obviously I said yes.
Yeah.
So after the round, we went up to the pub in the pro shop in the main lounge, and he ordered each of us a beer. And then, typical Arnie, he said, I want you to come in and run all my companies. Well, I just about had a heart attack on the spot. And I said, Arnie, I'm overwhelmed because of what you're suggesting, but I can't do it because I've already made some commitments following my retirement, which was coming up then, Rick, in about I don't know, a couple of weeks. But he said, well, I want to do something. I'll get back to you. So in February, I think it was, this all happened in December. In February, he called me and he said, I've got an idea. I'd like you to come up to Bay Hill and talk. So I did that. One thing led to another. He suggested I become a consultant and advisor. That way I'd have some other time for the other commitments that I had made. And he said only two requirements. One, you got to move to Bay Hill. And two, I want you right here sharing this office with me. And that's exactly what happened. That's a long story, but now with Jack, much earlier in 1970, my company I was then running, Taft Broadcasting Company, was building a golf course, and we had Jack design it. And I got to know him very well then, and that relationship has continued. We did a lot of business with Jack over the years, including we produced and marketed Golf My Way video. So that was my start with Jack. So my relationship with Jack was actually much older than my relationship with Arnie, but they both became very close and very personal.
And you obviously had a lot of time with both of them. What surprised you the most about Arnold Palmer in the time that you were with him?
Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. Well, the only honest answer is nothing, because he turned out to be one of those rare individuals that was exactly the same in private as he was in public. So it was very easy to get along with and work with Arnie, because there was never any subtlety. He just was what he was, and that was what I think may be the most charismatic athlete, at least my lifetime, and maybe ever. So it was easy. Jack, it was a little harder because Jack was not as outgoing as Arnie, But once you got to know him, he was and spent personal time with him. He was warm and friendly, and very engaging. And we still talk to this day. I talked to him just a couple of days ago. So they're different, but they were very much alike in many ways.
And what prompted you, Charlie, to write the book, Arnie and Jack?
I made a speech at my club here. I live at a Tradition Golf Club in La Quinta, California. And the president of the club came to me, I don't know how long ago it was now, year and a half, and said, Charlie, you may be one of the few people who spent a lot of intimate time with Jack and Arnie both at the same time. And I said, yeah, probably was. And he said, would you make a speech to our membership, just reviewing and revisiting some of those memories? And I said, I'd love to, and I did. And it went very well. And then I was urged by the membership to turn that speech into a book. And that's where the Arnie and Jack started and came from.
Were they friends on and off the golf course? On, I'm sure they were competitive with each other, but off the golf course, were they friends?
Warmer and deeper friends than probably anybody knows.
Wow.
And I think the reason is maybe not obvious, but it's fairly clear. They respected one another to an incredible degree. And I think if you start with mutual respect and mutual admiration, if you will, then it almost inevitably leads to friendship. And that's exactly what happened with them. And I remember on different occasions, Jack, for example, would say to me, you know, if I really was in a jam and I needed some help, I'd give Arnie a call. And Arnie would say the same thing to me. If I had a problem I thought I could help with, I'd call Jack. So people should know, and I try to make this clear in the book, these guys were deep and close friends. And as a matter of fact, and I think I quote this in my book to some extent, at Arnie's memorial service in Latrobe, Jack was the speaker and made their friendship very clear.
Is there anything special about your relationship with Arnie? What is your favorite story that you have about Arnold Palmer?
Oh, there are so many. One of my favorites, and again, only one, and I'll give you another one later. But some years ago, a pro in the Masters was leading in the Masters, and chose to lay up on both holes 13 and 15. And he parred them, as I recall, but he didn't win the Masters because others got birdies or eagles on those two holes. So the next day, I think it was having lunch with Arnie, and we're talking about that. And I said, Arnie, did you ever lay up at Augusta? And he looked at me straight away and said, you know how many times I've come in second at Augusta? And I kind of was nonplussed, and I said, well, no, I don't. And he said, neither do I. That I have never forgotten, because second was not in his vocabulary.
Yeah.
He was always going for the win.
Yeah.
Another story that has a little, maybe a little different twist was when Tim Finchem actually called me one day and said, Charlie, I need your help. And I remember laughing and saying, I said, Tim, this is an historic occasion for the PGA commissioner to call the LPGA commissioner and ask for help. And he said, well, I do need your help. He said, I'm trying to get Jack and Arnie to jointly design a golf course at the World Golf Hall of Fame. And we call it the King and the Bear. But I cannot convince either one of them to do it. They're too busy, or I can't do that, or our design philosophies are different or whatever. And he said, you know them both so well. Could you help me make that happen? And I said, well, I'm not at all sure I can, but I'll try. So I tried 3 or 4 different times individually to talk to each guy, and I got nowhere. Oh, I'm too busy. Our design philosophy is different, and blah blah blah. So finally, I had a brainstorm. I think I did this first with Jack, and I said, Jack, come on, do this. And he said, I just don't have time. And I said, well then, don't complain to me when you see the Trevino Player golf course. He said, what? I said, well, you don't think they're going to stop if you guys don't do it? There'll be a Player Trevino golf course. Oh, we can't. No. And I think within a week they were both on the job.
They were both on the same page finally, right?
Right. So
What?
those are 2 memories, and there are so many more. They're in the book.
I'll bet. Is that one of is there another favorite story about Jack that you could share with us?
Yes, this too, I'm almost certain is in the book. When we finished the golf course at our property in Cincinnati, north of Cincinnati, Jack and I were, it was a public golf course, designed to be, and we were having a drink and sort of celebrating, and I said, Jack, you've done a great job. I hope you're happy. Oh, I'm very happy with it. He said, Charlie, we're going to have a PGA tournament here next year. And I said, what? And he said, we're going to have a PGA tournament here this year. Beeman owes me one, and I'm going to call him. And I said, well, but Jack, the course hasn't even opened yet. The trees are whips. The grass is barely growing. Is the course going to be able to deal with a PGA tournament? He said, let me tell you something, Charlie. I've never forgotten this, Rick. He said, no matter the course, if you make the greens lightning fast, grow the roughs, and narrow the fairways, any golf course in the world can handle a tournament. So we did. We did it for, I think, 5 years. And the winners, the first winner was Jack.
Of course.
Miller Barber won 1 year. Mike Hill won 1 year. I think Ben Crenshaw. So the caliber of the winners made the point. But I was flabbergasted when he said we're going to have a PGA tournament on this public golf course, which hadn't even grown in.
Are you surprised by the welcoming and the excitement about this book that's been coming? I mean, that you've obviously had a lot of unbelievable opportunities with 2 great men.
I guess I am somewhat surprised. Not even somewhat. Yes, I am surprised and gratified. On the other hand, as I reflect on it, these 2 were icons, and people were fascinated by them. Tragically, we lost Arnie early, although he was in his 80s. But I mean, with him, you didn't never want him to die. And I think the book tells a lot of things about Jack that people would not have anticipated. So yes, I was flattered and surprised, but as I thought about it, I thought, in fact, Tom Watson did a blurb for the back of the book when it comes out, and he says there are so many wonderful stories about Arnie and Jack, and Charlie has offered us some of the best, something like that. So I think that they're so iconic that I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's a great book. I can't wait to get my copy of it. And I appreciate you getting up early from California to talk to us here on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
I get up about 6 o'clock, so don't worry. And the book will be out in no more than a month for sure.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you for having me.
That was an incredible interview. I had such a great time talking with him. Charlie Meacham, a man with many stories and even more memories of his friendship with Arnie and Jack. And after the break, we will talk wedges with Terry Kohler of Edison Wedges. And if you have trouble with your wedges, which a lot of us do, you will enjoy hearing about his 30-year study on wedges. But first, CJ's Pizza on Mallory Street, across from Parker's on St. Simon's Island. Maybe it's just because I love it. Maybe it's because it reminds me of deep dish pizza in Chicago, but they've got the best deep dish pizza that I've ever had. They also got thin crust, and it's made daily by hand, along with their famous hoagies, meatballs, homemade salad dressings. And don't forget about their great apps and pasta dishes, desserts, beer and wine, you name it. They've got it. Pick up or dine in. It's at CJ's Italian Restaurant. Check out the full menu at cjsitalianrestaurant.com.
This is Don Donatello. You're listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. Glad you're with us. Our next guest is Terry Kohler, the wedge guy with Edison Wedges. Good morning, Terry, and welcome to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Well, good morning to you, Rich. Good to be here.
It is good to have you. Let me ask you this. You and I had quite a conversation the other day as I was kind of driving into work, but what is the biggest misconception about wedges that you found over the last 30, 35 years that you've been studying them?
Well, it's a pretty big topic. I would say the biggest misconception is that golfers think grooves are the secret to spin. I mean, there's a lot of talk about grooves, but the rules of golf regarding how we can do grooves have not changed since 2010. So it's not really a story. Every manufacturer pushes groove geometry as far as technology will let us. But the real determinant of spin in a wedge is how the mass is distributed around the club head, the quality of your contact. Grooves are just icing on the spin cake, as I call it.
And but so many people have so many different wedges, and they probably have the wrong lofts, and they probably don't need this. And that was another conversation you and I had, because I told you I had a 60 and a 56, and you said the highest wedge you had was 57.
Yeah, I think gapping is a big topic in wedges, and we'll go back to your first question, because right behind grooves is this whole concept of fitting bounce, and that's another topic we get into, but that's something that really needs to be talked about. But, the gapping of your wedges, I think, has to start with knowledge of, what's the loft of your 9-iron or your pitching wedge in your set, because these lofts have been changing constantly for 30 years. They get stronger and stronger. So what used to maybe fit you might have been a 52, a 56, and a 60, which was traditionally the wedge lofts. Well, that was fine when pitching wedges were 48 degrees, but now we're seeing most of the modern irons, that P club, as I call it, has got as little as 42 or 43 degrees of loft on it. So you need to re-examine your gapping and make sure your actual real distance differences between wedges is consistent, and I think needs to be not more than 12 or 13 yards between clubs so that you can have the distance precision you're after.
Yeah, so many times I hear guys say, "Oh man, I'm in between clubs. I'm not sure what to hit." And I mean, that obviously makes a lot of sense to me. So you talked earlier.
Well,
Go ahead.
And being in between clubs at 5-iron and 6-iron range is okay.
Right.
Being stuck in between clubs and prime scoring range is just not where you want to be.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because you could be in a worse place or a better place, and obviously we all would like to be in the better place. All right, you talked earlier about bounce. Do you really believe that a lot of recreational golfers know which bounce they need to have on their wedges?
I think that bounce is the most confusing topic. You talked about most, kind of unappreciated topic, but the confusing topic, there's so much talk about bounce and grinds.
Yeah.
And the rest of the industry, I'm kind of a rebel, as you know, but the rest of the industry talks about fitting bounce. Well, I would ask all of your listeners to say exactly what kind of lies your next wedge shot going to be in.
Yeah, right.
And the answer is I have no clue. It can be in a soft bunker. It can be on hard pin. It can be in a rough. It could be a nice tight fairway lie. It could be a fluffy fairway lie. And then the other question, because they say you can fit bounce to turf. Well, none of us know what our next wedge shot looks like. And then they say you can fit bounce to your swing path. Well, the typical golfer that we deal with is a 10, 8, 12, 20 handicapper. And we don't know what kind of swing we're going to make. That's why we're a 10 or a 12 or a 16. We might take a big divot. We might take a shallow divot, barely nip the ball. So we're trying to fit two variables that none of us know the answer to the question.
Right.
Now, did I get you on a specific driving range on a specific day and kind of determine your swing path? Yeah, probably so. But you can't carry that piece of turf around with you.
Right.
So I think that what I tried to do, and I patented a sole design in 1992 or 3 that put a high bounce and a low bounce in each golf club so that I could make that sole as versatile as absolutely possible. And I've tweaked on this, what I call the Kaler sole here at Edison Golf, but I've tweaked on the sole design and keep making it better for 30 years plus now. And I think it's the most versatile sole out there. And we've got thousands of owners of all the wedges I've done over those years that would agree with you.
All right. So you have a process at Edison Wedges called a process analysis that you do. Tell us a little bit about that and what you find out about that may be different than what the person currently has in their bag.
Well, what wedge fit analysis does is it gives us a picture of your bag. What kind of irons do you play? what's the loft of your highest lofted wedge? What is your typical shot pattern? Where are your misses? How good is your bunker play? Well, I figure the more we know about you, the better chance we have of helping you get the right wedges in your bag. And that's our goal, is to get the right loft, get the right shaft. And nobody talks about shafts and wedges. I think whether it's a driver or a set of irons or a wedge, the shaft is the engine of the golf club. And
Right.
and I'm a big believer the shafts have to blend to your irons in weight and material and flex so that you can put the same swing on your gap wedge as your pitching wedge. But if you're playing regular flex graphite in your irons and you're buying wedges off the rack with a stiff flex heavy steel shaft, you have a major disconnect there that's going to prevent you from making the same swing with your pitching wedge and your gap wedge. So I'm a big believer shaft is a huge part of the fitting matrix, and that is one of the other things that wedge fit lets us get to.
And give us the website so our listeners, I want to get to it early so our listeners can maybe go up on it while you're talking about your wedges.
It's EdisonWedges.com, like Thomas Edison. Edison is our namesake. He was a great idea guy, and my partners like that name because I'm always looking for new ideas. I want to help golfers shoot better scores, and the Edison wedges are designed for the recreational golfers, whereas all the other wedges on the market for the most part are designed for tour players. And very simply, Rich, and we talked about this, we are not tour players. Those guys wear out a dime size impact spot on their wedges between the second and fifth groove, and that's where they've learned to hit wedges. And the rest of us, I observe wedges in golfers' bags, and it's kind of been a little hobby of mine for years. We have a silver dollar size wear pattern 2 to 4 grooves higher than that,
Yeah.
or $half dollar size. Or if you're a really good player, maybe it's a quarter size, but it's not a tour player impact pattern. So very simply, what I did at Edison is design wedges around where we hit the ball versus where tour players hit the ball. So that's really kind of that simple.
Yeah, and you talked about Scotty Scheffler, and a lot of these pros, they've not changed wedges for a long time. I mean, they may have gotten a newer one because they've worn the other one out, but for the most part, they're not going to change their scoring wedges.
Well, and they haven't changed wedges because the manufacturers have not changed wedges. I've got wedges in my collection going back to the 70s and 80s, even into the 50s and 60s. That if I polished them up, put modern graphics on them, they could go right into the rack today.
Right.
Now, one of the things we are seeing in the wedge category, particularly this year, all the companies are starting to put a little thicker mass up in the top part of the blade. But the tour players that play their stuff won't let them go as far as I've gone because, like you mentioned, Scotty Scheffler, if you change the way his wedge launches the golf ball, you've just negated a lifetime of practice. And this guy seems to be a really nice kid. I mean, he's been practicing his short game to be a tour player since he was 9 years old, he said.
Yeah.
So, if you change the golf club continually, you're gonna set him back on that cumulative learning curve. And then the rest of us, we're not trying to hit 47 different kinds of shots with our sand wedge. We want to hit maybe 2 or 3 and hit them with some kind of reasonable perfection. And that's what I've done, is just try to make the club a bigger part of the formula. What a lot of people don't understand, and because nobody's going to talk about it, but your gap wedge is a less forgiving golf club than the Tour Blade 9-iron. I'll put them both on the Iron Byron. The Tour Blade 9-iron is a more forgiving golf club than 1% of golfers will play a pure Tour Blade. 98% are trying to play a Tour wedge.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, I got
I'm
you.
like, keep carrying the 2-iron and wonder why you're not very good from 200 yards. Well, get a hybrid, dude.
Isn't that the truth? I agree with you there. Hey, Terry, we got to take a quick break. We're going to be back with Terry Kohler, Edison Wedges, right after this on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Hi, I'm Dottie Pepper with CBS Sports, and you are listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. We're on the phone with Terry Kohler, the wedge guy with Edison Wedges. And Terry, we also talked about this last week. Why is your highest wedge that you have 57 degrees?
In my bag, listen, I think that high loft, well, I know for a fact, high loft wedges are really hard to handle. And I'm a one handicap still, and I'm a wedge guy. I mean, I probably hit 500 to 800 wedge shots a week, just because I'm always playing around with them. I'm
Wow.
little chips and pitches and full swing, because I'm a range rat too. But you know, by nature, a wedge is a glancing blow. The reason wedges are so hard for people is you've got all this loft, 50, 55, 60 degrees. So compared to a 7-iron or a 3-wood or a driver, this is a very glancing blow. So the quality of contact is very hard to manage. And I think that, as I get into the high lofts, I think it's a high risk golf club. And even though I carry a 57, my go-to club is a 53 or my 49. I mean, I pitch the ball with those lower lofted wedges because you're less likely to get a glancing blow. You're less likely to get a pop-up. And that 57, for me, is a greenside utility tool. If I need the loft, I will go to that club. But for the most part, I've seen, on a 30 or 40 yard pitch shot, that 53 will deliver more spin and a better trajectory than the 57 and much more consistently. Yeah. And that's for me as a one handicap. I guarantee it's true for the 8, 12s, and 20 handicap.
Oh, for sure. So,
and we make wedges all the way to 63 degrees. There are some people who have learned how to use them and they use them well. But, I think that you have to be honest in your evaluation of your skill set is, am I really that good from that with that loft in my hand? How often does it save me shots versus costing me shots?
Yeah. Do you think a lot of people, Terry, kind of watch the pros on TV and say, Phil's using this or JT's using this, and oh man, I gotta go buy a 60-degree wedge because they're using it, and I want to get those kind of results?
That's absolutely true. And the fact is, those guys carry the wedges they carry because they've learned how to use them. The wedge did not make their short game. They learned how to use those wedges. And again, I would say, should I carry a 60? It's like, hey, would you take Phil Mickelson on in a $100 a shot up and down contest? If the answer is yes, then go get that. But the fact is, these guys, and I've talked about, I hit 400, 500, 600 wedge shots a week. These guys hit that many thousand a week. I mean, they are constantly hitting dozens and dozens and dozens of shots. They're learning how to do everything possible with every club because if you don't have that kind of short game, you cannot play PGA professional golf.
Yeah, and they're doing
these guys hit 13 or 14 greens around on a great day,
right,
and they shoot, 63 or 5 or 7.
Yeah,
they're not hitting all the greens, and that's why. But if you don't have the ability to get it up and down out of a garbage can, you can't play the tour. I mean, watch TV on any given week and watch the miraculous shots these guys hit. Those aren't accidents. But, I mean, they know exactly how to hit those shots because they practice them incessantly because they have to.
Yeah, and they're practicing from various positions, different lies, higher grass, lower grass, thin grass, out of the sand traps, and probably most 12 to 20, 25 handicaps don't do that. They may just practice right in front of the green where the grass is perfect and not necessarily where it's not.
Yeah. And, the thing that we look at with amateurs is I watch the range. Again, I'm on the range a lot, and we have a really nice little short game chipping and pitching area. And I watch people go to that range, grab a bucket of balls, go hit drivers and 5-irons, and go back to their cart to go to the first tee. And they just don't work on that part of their game. And then when they get out there, they, on the golf course, they haven't even, it's been weeks since or the last round since they hit a chip shot. And they're not prepared to score the golf course.
Yeah. Yeah. And you told me to stop using my 60 and use my 58 that I had. No, my 56 and my gap wedge. And it worked.
Go learn what those clubs do, and I think you'll find your consistency of scoring is going to improve. And occasionally you get short-sighted on and then you hit your iron and you're short-sighted, you don't have much green to work with. And,
Yep.
My question is, and I take this from something Ben Hogan always says, is never try a shot on the golf course that you haven't practiced. Because you don't know that you know how to hit that shot.
Yeah.
And I think that's good advice for all of us is, hit the shots on the golf course that you're pretty sure you can pull off because you've practiced that shot or you've hit that shot, know that shot.
Yep. You got it.
Particularly around the greens. Don't try to do Phil Mickelson stuff if you haven't practiced it,
Isn't that the truth? Terry, can't thank you enough. Thank you very much for being with us on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, as always.
Well, thank you. It's always fun. And again, it's EdisonWedges.com. We're doing some very different things. We got more information about wedges and our wedges than anybody in the business because we believe the more you know, the more you're going to understand why we do what we do.
Terry, thank you very much. Thank you for listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show every Saturday, Sunday, right here on ESPNCoastal.com and on Back9Boys.com. 8 to 9 every Saturday and Sunday. Thank you for listening. Take care.
You've been listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show with Rich Stiles. Go to Back9Boys.com for all things golf whenever you want it. We'll be back next week with